Hello, this is a note about the qtVlm Grib time slider. That's this feature that's displayed right here, which is one way to step through the various times of the Grib file that's loaded. And we see up here we have in slot 1 we have a GFS file loaded, and that actually the first forecast in that, or the analysis, is way back here on 5/29. I started this a few days ago and then got tied up, and I'm just going to use those old files. It doesn't matter for this discussion. And so these are then the different ways. And you can, with this time slider, you can then just grab this red thing. This is now. This is actually right now, 2140. That's a GMT right now, UTC. And I can grab this and go back, and it'll then change. Oh, the wind's not changing that much. Oh, that's interesting. The wind's not changing much. Well, a little bit. Okay, or I can then step through this way. I can set the steps to 6 hours, and then hit this button, and it would step up the timeline that way. And this feature is, let me just show you where that is. This is in the Grib configuration page, display time slider. There it is, like that, and that's on. And then I want to go and look at some details of that. One is, for example, if these dots here are significant, and that's one of the things I want to talk about. These dots are where there are actual forecasts. So we see in this GFS forecast, we have dots now I don't know how much that is. Let's say, for example, this is just some random time here, 4:57. Let's say I want to get right on one of the forecast times. Well, you can grab this, and try to get right on it or something, but you see I missed it. I didn't quite get it 3 o'clock. So what you could do is you could just hit the clock up here, and then you could just say, just take one of these. What date is that? That's on 5/31 at 3 o'clock. 5/31 at 3 o'clock. That's there. Okay. So now it's bang on that time right there. And so then if you step, like 3-hour steps, you would then step right up, be on exactly the forecast. So what that means is, in this particular forecast, we had the model. We may have asked for the every 3 hours. We might have asked for it every 1 hour. It depends on where you're getting it. GFS actually has 1 hour data for at least 18 hours, but not all services provide that. But anyway, this looks like you have 3-hour data up to about here. Then you have 6-hour data, it looks like, and then 12-hour data. We're seeing that from these dots. And the thing that's significant here is we can view in qtVlm, you can view 3 Grib files at once. This little arrow up here means we're looking at number 1. And see there's only one. There is only one, so there's nothing there on the others. So let's just do this. Let's go Grib slot 2 open, and that's GFS. I'll go to the ECMWF. I'll put that in number 2. So now it's in number 2. So you see now, look, I got 2 rows of dots, and now I'm going to do Grib slot 3 open. And then that's a Canadian GDPS. That's a Canadian high-resolution model. That's there. So I have these 3 global models here. And so let's go back to the beginning here. Let's go back to here. Now, you see when I'm back here, let me go forward to see. You see there's only two, the GFS did not have any forecast at this particular time. Another reminder here, I'm on a Mac, so I'm doing Command-I for information. If you're on a PC, it would be probably Control-I. And that pops up, or you could go up here, Grib information, right there. Okay, that's this. And that tells me slot 1 is a NOAA GFS model. Look, it's got it laid out here very nicely. 3-hour steps up to here, 6-hour steps, 12-hour steps. And this is a lat-long range. Somewhere it might tell me the resolution. Here's the resolution, 0.25 degrees. And then I can go look at slot 2. Well, wait a minute, back at slot 1. It also tells when it starts. It starts on 5/29 at 1800. 529, 1800. So that must be up here. So these others look like they start earlier, and they're starting 529, 1200. So you see, so with this information, you can look at, see exactly what Gribs are loaded and some properties of them. But so you see up here, I only have, and the way these are marking the dots of the 3 slots, slot 1, 2, and 3, and they're all 3 showing. You see, if I click this, there's 1. There's no data up here for 1. Now here's 2. Then in 2 I've got 1, and in 3 I've got 1. And if I turn them all on, I've got 2 plus 3. And then these, I've set this up with different colors for the different Grib models, slots rather, 1, 2, and 3. And let me jump ahead and just show you that and some logic to it. Here's where you set the colors. I made it a green, a red, and a kind of a gray, light, bright gray. And that's for slot 1, slot 2, and slot 3. That's the wind barb arrows. Now, and the reason those colors aren't totally random. If I right-click this and ask for a meteogram, I have the opportunity here, and I'm going to discuss this in a minute, I have the opportunity to compare the Gribs. So I just turn on a meteogram for any place on here that's showing me how these parameters vary as a function of time at that particular point, and then I hit this Grib comparison. Now, these colors here are not following what I did. I followed what these did. So these are built-in stock fixes. The number 1 is going to be green, a 2 red, and this gray. So I thought it's logical, at least in my own reckoning and so forth, I just made the arrows, the wind arrows for slot 1 is green, slot 2 is red, and then gray. So then I can keep in mind, I always keep in mind by looking at the colors what model or slot model it is. I'm going to come back to this in a minute. Okay, so when we see here, we see just 2. If I go in here, there's just 2. Now look, these models agree pretty well, by the way. Look at these. Some of these you can't even tell that there's 2 arrows here. But there are 2, and there's that's that. And then I can go up to the next one. If I go up to slot the next one, either by hand or clicking the button. Now there are 3. You see, if I zoom in here, you'll see there's actually 3 arrows. Now you could make those bigger. I maybe should have done that. Let's make them bigger. Let's make them bigger like that. It's a little easier to see. The other thing you can see that's valuable, I'm a little off topic of my slider, but it's all kind of related. If I put arrows at the Grib points, then that's often valuable because otherwise it's interpolating. So keep in mind that if you put arrows at the Grib points, then you've got only where the data really is. And you'll see a huge difference between a high resolution model and one of these ocean models. This has really crude resolution. But that's a point you can do here. And I've just made those a little bit bigger so we can see them that way. Okay, now let me see. So here you see you're only seeing, if I go back here one step where I just drag it back, I see only 2 models, and I'm seeing red, I'm seeing green and gray, I'm seeing 2 and 3, and that's these 2 down here. But now you see, if I come all the way up here, let's see, I can drag that up here. If I come all the way up here, for example, I would expect here to see, in one sense, you might say, I see just 1 because there's only 1 there. But I've got all 3 showing, and what happens is the reason you're seeing all 3 here is, at this point, it's interpolating. So it's actually, it's got this, there's no data here. Let's see if I go, you take this down a little bit. There's no actual data here from this model. At this particular time, there is no forecast for this slot 2 and slot 3. But the program itself will interpolate between what was here and what was here and put it here. So here you actually see all 3. So that just helps. And likewise, you go up here where there's only GFS is the only one there. But in fact, you'll still see all 3 because they're interpolated. Now look, the further we get out in the forecast, these things don't agree so much anymore. And that's another subject, but that's also to be expected. In the first 3 or 4 days, these main global models are going to be pretty much in agreement. But then they diverge a little bit. let's see, what else did I want to show here? Oh, it also explains another thing you see from these dots. It's very helpful. And then I go right click and I do this meteogram here and I do compare. Now you see at the end of the game here, I see the green, which is the GFS. That's the one clear over here. So I see the green coming clear over here, but these two models end here. So I'm seeing from this picture up here why this is ending, why the meteogram looks the way it does. You see that because there's no data in here for that one. The other thing too is, let me do this. I got to close this, I guess, first. Let me go to clear the other end of the spectrum. And here we only have 2 models at the first end. So let's look at the meteogram on that one. Meteogram here. Okay, that's big, but I don't need it that big. Okay, and then do compare models. But now the default, here's something about the meteogram that's always valuable. It always starts at this time of this is called the Grib time. It always starts at the Grib time and goes to the full length of the Grib. So in this case, you're not seeing too much detail right in this area, but if you want to, you can come down here and I can change that to like 6.1. 6.1 and say, okay, and then it goes to 6.1, and then you see it spread out. So now what we're looking at here is we see in the beginning, we only have these 2 models. The green, the top row, that's the green one. It goes green, red, gray, and the green is a slot 1. And you see we only have the red and gray, and then all the way you have to go all the way back here, and then if you hold your cursor there, it'll read the values. That's reading the value of the wind speed, and that's reading the value of that. Also, another thing to note, okay, I'm wandering off here a little bit, but let me go up a little bit here. Okay, so I only have 1 Grib showing, and I'm looking at the meteogram. Whoops, excuse me. Oh, I got one other thing to show. I'm really diverging, but there's so many features related here. Meteogram. Now you see here, I've only got 1 to look at. Oh no, when it compares it, it's going to compare them all. And that's because I've got these all here. Let me make my point here. Well, I'm going to let that go. If you close, here's a summary. When you have only 1 showing, it is still valuable. I'm going to do it. So I'm going up here to Gribs slot 3 and close it, and Gribs slot 2 and close it. So now I only have 1 Grib, and so I'm going to show the meteogram here. And then make it bigger a little bit. So you see I only have 1, and I'm looking at the wind. Oh, I got to go. There it is. Okay, there's only 1 vector there. But now the interesting thing is, even though you have only 1, also, by the way, did you notice that when I first turned it on, there was only 1 arrow, but if I turn it on and off, then I get the arrows on all of them. That's a minor issue. Now, but here's the point: when you only have 1 Grib showing, you still might want to turn on this, because then you get to see a better view of the direction. With here, we're dealing with the direction like this, which is a nice pictorial view of what's going on. Obviously, what's going on here, what is that? Oh, no, okay, you can see the shift of the wind. But then you turn this on, you get more digital values. Okay, that is that. The other thing to keep in mind that you've got that's relatively new is you can request a query the Grib data, and that will digitally tell you the value. I only have 2 parameters here, the pressure and the wind, and you see those here. And that's with that. And that's valuable. If you have like those 3 loaded, you can see all of them at once. All right, I'll stop there. I'm a little off topic of this. I wanted to stress the value of this new formatted time slider.